Well, I told you yesterday that I was going to appear in my Speedos bare chested. I lied. I'm not ever going to do that. Okay. But it is a little more summery today. It's still kind of chilly out there. Uh, but welcome to Saturday morning cartoons. And this, I somebody suggested instead of wearing my sling and that I just wear like a Hawaiian shirt. Okay, this is about as close to that kind of summery garb as I could dig out of my closet today. Anyway, today for Saturday morning cartoons, I'm reaching way back because for the last few days, and the book is still laying around, for the last week or so, I've been pulling information out of a book that I think was published in like 2010 or something that I wrote called "The Key to Solomon's Key." The first edition was called "Secrets of Magic and Masonry," and the second one, second edition, I added an additional chapter concerning the some more Masonic symbolism. But anyway, it's a curious little book, and it's published by CCC, or Consortium of Collective Consciousness, that is a smaller publisher. Brad Olson, marvelous sort of mystical travel guy, and a dear friend, published it. So it's not a big wiser thing. But it's kind of hard to explain what kind of book it is. So it doesn't, it fits in many niches. And so one would think it fits in no niche. But before I put it back in the book case, I thought I would see if I ever did an interview or anything about it, where I try to explain the method to the madness of having a Goetia book and a Knights Templar book and a Mason book, and all having to do with the historicity or non-historicity of the Bible. It's a lot to chew on, or it's a big bite, okay? And I try to do it, and Constance, it's her favorite book that I've ever written, and it's one of my favorites too. And so I was, because I knew I did interviews and lectures on it, and this is when I speak at Masonic lodges. This is usually my first lecture is on this book. I found one for Evolve magazine, and I'm not sure if that magazine is still in publication, but I found some questions and answers, and I'm going to share it with you on Saturday morning cartoons. Okay. Said you recently published The Key to Solomon's Key: Secrets of Magic and Masonry. So why do you believe that Solomon is the key? And here's my, off the top of my head, where I had 8 hours to figure out how to answer this question. Solomon is quite literally the key to both magic and masonry. It doesn't matter if the wise Hebrew king ever actually existed as a historical character or not. He's become hardwired in the Western psyche as the archetype of the spiritually liberated and empowered human being, the mediator between that which is above and that which is below. A pious man of God and a wise conjurer of demons. For many, the terms man or woman of God and conjurer of demons seems to be concepts at odds with one another. I do my best in the book to demonstrate how the two concepts are not only compatible, but cannot exist apart from each other. Okay, second question. Other than the spike of interest in Freemasonry generated by the success of Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code, why should anyone, let alone occultists, care about a bunch of crusty old men with funny hats and aprons shaking hands behind closed doors? Answer. We should care because whether the vast majority of Masons alive today realize it or not, Masonry is, in a very real way, the heir to the ancient mystery traditions. She is also, in my opinion, the custodian of a profound secret concerning the political and religious history of Western civilization. In fact, I believe that since the 12th century, it's been the most dangerous secret in the world. Unlike most of my books, The Key to Solomon's Key is not aimed primarily at practicing magicians or occultists. Yet I write a bit about the magical art form known as Solomonic magic or Goetia. But I do so only in the context of telling a greater story, a story that should be of vital interest to anyone who wishes to understand the underground ideas and forces that have molded our religious and political world. Again, the book is called The Key to Solomon's Key. Question. Does this mean that Lon DuQuette turned conspiracy theorist? Now remember this back in probably 2010. Answer, laughing. Well, sort of, I guess. For the better part of 2,000 years, Western civilization has been spiritually asleep. Not only asleep, we've been trapped in a nightmare. We didn't just fall asleep, we were pushed. We were pushed by individuals and institutions who, for reasons of greed and crowd control, needed to create a culture of spiritual zombies, a population easily manipulated by fear of living and fear of dying. You can find the weapon these guys used in the end table of nearly every hotel room. Question. Obviously, you're talking about the Bible. Answer. Of course. Look around. Even today in the Middle East. The essence of why the Israelis and the Arabs hate each other and both think they're entitled to that land springs ultimately from their belief that they are descended from one or another brother in a Bible story. Here in America, leaders of our government believe that catastrophic war in the Middle East is inevitable. Actually, ordained by the God of the Bible. With the future so laid out, why conserve oil and natural resources? Why prevent pollution? The Bible is a rich source of wisdom and inspiration and enlightenment, but it's also the father of the slave trade and the mother of global warming. But please don't misunderstand me. I respect the Bible as a spiritual document, and so do Masons. For several years, I was chaplain of my Masonic lodge, and there's no question in my mind that Masons love the Bible. But the craft never suggests that her members should accept the Bible as a historic document. In fact, the rituals and traditions of Masonry draw the candidate's attention to certain Bible stories, then obliges them to meditate on sacred truths outside the strict confines of the Bible narrative. Masonry encourages us to ask ourselves questions and dig deeper into the Bible stories that the rituals and lectures refer to. And when we start asking questions about the Bible, we better be prepared for some very unsettling answers. I believe Masonry wants those questions asked. Okay, here's the question. Let's see here. I hope I got all the pages. Yes, I do. Back when I was involved in co-masonry, this is the question. It was common to accept the lore that Freemasonry, if not the actual order, at least the structure, could be traced back to Egypt or to the builders of King Solomon's temple, or at the very least to the Knights Templar. Was that wishful thinking? That was a great question. This person was a co-mason. I think the interviewer was a woman. I think it was a woman editor. I'm not sure. Where Masonry is concerned, there is a profound, this is my answer. Where Masonry is concerned, there is a profound difference between traditional history and history. Yes, the degree structure of the craft, the formula of initiation ceremonies, even the requirement that each member memorize the details and ceremonies and lectures are echoes of the ancient mystery school practices, even elements reminiscent of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. But there is no empirical evidence whatsoever that proves that modern Masonry has descended from the Egyptian or Greek mystery schools or the Dionysian artificers or even the medieval guilds of cathedral builders. Neither is there any evidence that on such and such a date the Knights Templar escaped their persecution, went underground, and transformed themselves into a men's benevolent club that employs building tools as esoteric symbols and Bible stories as moral lessons. That being said, we're stuck with what Masonry is. And like some pre-echo to the philosophy of Thelema, Masonry, like all true spiritual concepts, can ultimately only be understood and defined in the hearts and minds of her individual members. Many influential individual members of the 18th and 19th centuries passionately embrace the, quote, traditional identity of the craft as a continuation of the Egyptian mystery schools and the custodian of the secret of the Knights Templar. Question. But isn't the coupling of the mystery school tradition to that of the Knights Templar a weird marriage? After all, the former was a transcendent spiritual experience and the latter a violent military organization. Great questions, okay? Answer. The mystery school tradition reveals who our friends are and demonstrates the way of personal spiritual illumination. The Templar tradition reveals who our enemies are and demonstrates how they can be vanquished in order for us to achieve a free and enlightened society. No, I think it's a marriage made in heaven. Question, then you believe Masonry has an agenda? Answer, it had an agenda, and for those with eyes to see, it still does. We can see that agenda at work in Masonry's antagonism toward temporal tyranny. and her militant stand against ignorance and superstition, in her legendary enmity toward oppressive religion, in her exaltation of the arts and sciences, and most importantly, in her call for a rational homage to deity, and her unambiguous affirmation in the inherent goodness of mankind. Masonry's agenda is to raise the consciousness of humanity. One of the most important projects in that agenda is the resurrection of the Greek ideal of democracy and the creation of the United States of America. This ideal has all but been overturned in the last 6 years. And now we can say in the last 20 years. Question. It seems to me that there's a general bifurcation of intent in any spiritual current, an exoteric and esoteric approach. The exoteric appears almost to be fear, guilt-based, while the esoteric approach is one which values internalizing the message, whatever it is, emphasizing unity and love, and generally ends up with its followers tied to stakes. Aren't these great questions? Can this conflict be reduced to simple economics, since the esoteric path would have no need for a hierarchy or of priesthoods and a concept of, say, tithing? That'd be absurd. Or is the economic issue only part of the larger one? Why are people so terrified of freedom? My answer: you've hit the nail squarely on the head. Except I don't see it even as a choice between exoteric and esoteric. I see it simply as the former being political, economic exploitative, and the latter being religious, self-realizing, liberating. Question. I'm wondering if you see in all this Solomonic Freemasonic interest, perhaps, just perhaps, the swing of the pendulum away from the knee-jerk neocon party line of the dominionists, who, as you say, have no interest in environment matters since Armageddon and the rapture are soon upon us, and back in the direction of the real mystery. How far will this go? Doesn't every successful Da Vinci Code and these other materials speak to a deep-seated need in our culture for something deeper, more real than the crawl across the bottom of a CNN's screen? My answer: absolutely. And I believe that the greatest evil on earth is religion used for political ends. For the survival of life on this planet, it has got to stop. Look, this is not just another skirmish of ideologies, but an actual birth pangs of a quantum leap in the evolution of human consciousness. The three great religions of the West have ceased to be religions. They've become political parties with insane, unhealthy, and dangerous platforms, political parties that demand from their constituents a form of mental illness and spiritual bondage. Political parties that are not playing well with each other. Political parties that are threatening the very existence of life on Earth. And this terrible nightmare all springs from the misuse and misunderstanding of a book. What would happen to these political parties if that book were proven to be the emperor with new clothes? And that's what I've tried to do with a book. I think that Templars thought they had proof and that Masonry quietly and respectfully encourages her members who have eyes to see and ears to hear to make that discovery for themselves. In the key to Solomon's Key, I share what I've discovered, something that I believe is the most dangerous secret in the world. Question. I understand you continue this crusade in your new book, coming out later this year, An Accidental Christ. The story of Jesus is told with his uncle. The website teaser, anaccidentalchrist.com, is almost too cool. Are each of us accidental Christs? Answer. Good Lord, please don't call it a crusade. An Accidental Christ is my first novel. I wrote it because I think it's important for people to realize that sacred truth does not demand miracles or faith or wonder stories. I've tried to make it as amusing and entertaining as possible, and I, of course, hope it will be received as such. Rising up through most of the 20th century, most Christians have been content to have a childlike belief in the wonder story of a man born of a virgin, son of the God of the Old Testament. A guy who could walk on water, heal the sick, raise the dead, who voluntarily allowed himself to be killed, then raised himself from the dead, and 40 days later flew up into the sky and disappeared. We didn't care, or we were afraid to dig too deeply into what may have actually been the milieu of first century Palestine, where all this is said to have taken place. We didn't care, or were afraid to explore, the possibility that what our parents and grandparents believed might not be true. We were afraid because of the same authorities that told us this story also threatened us that if we didn't believe it, we would, after death, spend eternity in hideous pain in a lake of fire. That's powerful encouragement. I'm sorry, even as a child, I couldn't work up a childlike belief in that story. And I think that here, at the dawn of the 21st century, there are lots of other people who are ready to be spiritual grown-ups. Lots of people ready to accept the fact that the Scripture can be interpreted in many different ways. Accidental Christ is one such exercise. And I wish I had the book around here just so I could fling it in your face, An Accidental Christ. The newest edition is just out with Llewellyn. Had to get a plug in. Okay. Question. I've seen your DVD, Kabbalah for the Rest of Us, and I found it the best introduction to the Kabbalah I've ever encountered. What's amazing is how much you give the viewer in background, but also structure and understanding of the Kabbalah in less than an hour. I recommend it to anyone interested in finding out more about the Tree of Life. There just isn't any better. Wow. Okay. What I haven't seen yet is your new DVD, Tarot, Kabbalah, and Oracles, Lon Milo DuQuette, Live and Uncensored. Could you tell me something about this DVD? And I think this was a DVD made at one of the Bay Area Tarot Symposiums 20-some years ago. And I don't even know if it's still available. DVDs are a this is my answer. DVDs are a medium I'm just now exploring. For a few years, I've been appearing now and then on a few television programs and documentaries that need a silver-haired, talking head occult studies expert. More recently, I've been very privileged to be part of the Magical Egypt documentary series. Chance Gardner and the folks at Magical Egypt produced my Kabbalah for the rest of us, and followed up with to my San Francisco shoot to shoot Tarot, Kabbalah, and Oracles. Lon Milo DuQuette, live and uncensored. It's my 2005, here it is, my 2005 presentation at the Historic Bay Area Tarot Symposium. We had lots of fun making this one, and it includes cameos of some of the world's most famous personalities, including of the world of tarot, including Mary Greer, Rachel Pollack, Joseph Martin, and Dr. Art Rosengarten. What are you? And these are, we've just lost Rachel recently, but everybody else is still alive and kicking, especially Mary. Mary has helped me with my new book on tarot that I've just completed with Weiser, and she's graciously contributed a foreword to that. What projects are you working on now? So, wow, this will be news to me too. So many that my head's spinning. I'm finishing up a book on Enochian magic, Enochian vision magic, wow, which will be done around Christmas. When that is in the can, I'm committed to write another novel about the Apostle Paul. That's still in the can somewhere here. I'm also working on a film project based on my book, The Key to Solomon's Key, called The Most Dangerous Secret in the World. And that's the end of my interview, probably a 2005 interview with Evolve magazine. I'm not sure you can find that anywhere at the moment, but hopefully Saturday morning cartoons, at least you could hear what my rant was in 2005. And my comments concerning the Middle East back then are hideously, tragically, even more appropriate. Anyway, Sunday school is tomorrow. Perhaps I'll wear my sling for Sunday school. But until then, have a great weekend, everybody. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.